And we are live. Welcome to another episode of the MMK Show. Today, we're talking about a super interesting topic that not a lot of people are talking about, and that is selling on Amazon Japan. We've got our good friend Gary Huang and also Ritu and Nick Katz from Japan joining us in a bit to talk about this very interesting topic. But before that, we wanted to quickly talk about India sourcing trip that's coming up in March. If you don't know the dates yet, they are March 13th to the 20th. And there's going to be an amazing trip. It's all inclusive where we cover your hotel stay, transportation, food, cultural program, conference, trade shows. It's jam packed with a lot of information, a lot of content, a lot of networking. And, we understand that for some people, budget might be a concern. And so if you are kind of, if that is one of the constraints that you have, come talk to us because we do have a couple of special offers that we want to share with you. We've done some special deals with a hotel where if you share a room with another person, with a business partner, or maybe another attendee, you get a significant discount. So come talk to us. Send a message to myself or Margaret or Kevin on Messenger. Talk to us about the special offer that we have, and we can even customize the trip for you. Right, Marg? I mean, we can do a no-frills trip if somebody wants that.
Yeah. I think, if people are really finding they'd love to come, but just, can't afford, to do everything, maybe, they miss all the cultural things, and just do the business side of it. We can take the drinks package out, so we can customize it to give people the chance to come and actually get to a factory, and go and, see all the trade show, do everything there is except the cultural and the social side, cutting back on that. So I think that might help some people who, really want to come, but just think, I've got, stock to pay for, or, something happening.
Right. So what would they call it, Megla Margaret? No frills. No frills, right?
Yes, a no frills, no culture program. Although we would encourage people to try and do the entire trip because that's an amazing experience. But we do understand that, there is sort of an economic slowdown as well. Sales are down on Amazon. And so, some people might be considering, but actually March is a really good time to go source for products for Q4. Because if you don't source in March, if you wait until October, then you've actually missed a whole year. So that's why we want to encourage all of you to come to India in March so that you're ready for Q4. Right,
Yeah,
Mark?
no,
This is the right time. Yeah.
March is the peak time to sort of do your sourcing, because you can see the trends, what's coming in, and into 2024 even, sort of, because when you're sourcing, you've got to look ahead. You've got to be ahead of the game, so to speak, for trends. So.
Yeah, and I think if you get in March, you will get all your products, ordered, and you can get them in. If you go there and you're serious and you start, working with suppliers straight away, you'll be able to be live for Q4. Whereas if you left till October, you're really going to be behind the eight ball, for another sort of 6 or 8 months. You're just missing it all. Yeah, all the Christmas and all that time. So yeah.
Exactly. So come talk to us, send us a message, and we can customize the trip for you and make sure that you find value on the trip however you want to attend it. All right, so let's start with our show now, and I'm going to first of all invite Gary on stage. Hi, Gary. How are you doing?
Hi, Gary.
Hi, Megla. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Mark. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Happy CNY too, Gary.
Happy New Year. Happy Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year, and Western New Year 2023. Yeah. Great start.
Happy new home in Japan, huh?
Yeah, so since last time we talked, my family and I actually moved to Japan. So I'm actually in Tokyo now. It's freezing cold winter. We went from summer Bangkok to winter Tokyo, but it's been great so far. And I'm very excited about the Amazon Japan opportunity this year, and we have some great value. We're going to help you guys learn how to sell in Japan on Amazon.
Awesome. Let's also invite our good friend Ritu. Hi, Ritu. So good to see you.
Hello. Hey guys, nice to see you again.
Hello, Ritu. Great to see you.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
All right, and we also have Nick Katz joining us from Japan. Hi, Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Oh, you're muted.
Chris is here. He's muted.
Although it's probably better I stay muted. But hello, everyone. Sorry.
Okay, so we've got a jam-packed session, lots of information about selling on Japan. But first, let's just do quick introductions for people who don't know who you guys are. So Gary, can you start first?
Yes, so my name is Gary Huang. I'm an e-commerce veteran seller. I've been selling on Amazon US, and recently I've gotten started selling in Amazon Japan as well. So I do feel this is a great opportunity to sell in Amazon Japan. I'm the founder and host of Seven Figure Seller Summit. Some of you guys have heard of that online event, and we're actually doing a brand new in-person physical event this year in April. So I'm very excited to help sellers really understand how to sell in Amazon Japan. So that's my goal for today.
Cool. Ritu.
Yeah, hi. I am the CEO of PPC Ninja. We are a software and services provider for the Amazon advertising space. I personally lived in Japan for 17 years, and I'm super excited for this amazing event that's coming up in April that has been organized by Gary. And I'm really looking forward to all the good stuff that we're going to be sharing today, and then hopefully meeting some of you in Japan in person.
Cool. Nick.
Okay, I am Nick. I've been in Japan way too long. And I've been in retail since 2000, actually before 2000, for 23, 24 years in Japan. I sell on Amazon. I'm in our office in Japan. We also do account management. I've been doing that for the last 2 years now. And I specialize in Japan. And that's about it for me. All been full-time since 2017, by the way.
Awesome.
Excellent. And
cool.
If I can quickly add, Megla, Ritu and Nick, they have a wealth of knowledge and firsthand experience in selling in Japan and also understanding all of the nuances. That's why I thought it would be great to invite them to come share some of their real experience selling in Japan. And both Ritu and Nick are alumni speakers at some Seven Figure Seller Summit. So some of you guys have already seen them. And Nick is a Seven Figure Seller selling in Japan and EU, and Ritu also is an expert in PPC as well. And with her Japan knowledge, like she actually helped me with some of my Amazon Japan listings, that are live in Japan now, with the keyword research in Japanese, localization, and the PPC optimization. So I think, we're going to cover a lot today. I'm super excited.
Cool. Do any of you speak Japanese, by the way? Ritu? Yeah? Nick? Yeah? Gary's just starting.
I speak Japanese.
Yes,
Okay, awesome.
I speak the least out of this group, and I think you don't have to be fluent in Japanese to sell in Japan. I think I'm an example of that. You got to have the right support and partners. So
Awesome.
there we go.
So Gary, let's get started. I'm going to share your slides now, and it's over to you.
Okay, so thank you everybody for coming, and today we're going to talk about maybe the best kept secret about Amazon selling, because one of the biggest marketplaces in the Amazon world, it's the fourth biggest marketplace, is Amazon Japan. But the thing is, not too many people are talking about it. So today I really want to help you guys understand, if you're thinking about it, how to sell on Amazon Japan. So Japan's first, just a quick fact. Japan's the fourth biggest Amazon marketplace, and recently we polled about 130 of people in our audience. Which marketplaces you're selling in, and we see the majority are selling in the U.S. Some people EU, Canada, Mexico, but basically nobody is selling in Japan. And remember, this is the fourth biggest marketplace, guys. It's kind of crazy that nobody's talking about it. So our buddy Will Ferrell said, that's ridiculous, right? This is a huge opportunity, and I really wanted to help you guys learn more about how to sell into Amazon Japan. But at the same time, a lot of you guys have told me, there's a lot of challenges selling into Japan, right? The language barrier, the cultural barrier, also, understanding what is involved, what steps you have to take. There's some differences in terms of like the laws, the regulations, and also, having to know Japanese. So we're actually going to touch upon basically all of these different things today in our action-packed training today. All right. And so in today's game plan, we're going to walk you through why you should sell on, Amazon Japan. Why do some sellers stumble and fall before they even get started? And will my product sell at all? And what tools to use, as well as some of the laws and regulations that you need to be aware of. Localization beyond just translation, so you can increase your conversions. And also we'll touch upon a little known external marketing channel in Japan that you probably never heard of, because Facebook, those type of typical social media that we normally use aren't as effective in Japan. All right. And then I want to keep this interactive, guys. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll try to get to as many as we can. All right. Does that sound good, guys?
Yep, sounds great.
Okay, excellent. So I just like to kick things off with a panel discussion with Nick and Ritu. Why do you guys think sellers should sell in Japan? Who wants to take a stab at this first?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, the most obvious, reason in my mind is that if you are already selling in any of the Amazon marketplaces like the US or UK, you've already got kind of your base listing, set up, and it would be a shame to kind of lose that and not be able to use it in other marketplaces. So when you think about using all the assets that you already have, it's probably easiest to start looking at another marketplace. And I think of all the marketplaces that are out there with Amazon, this one is one of the ones that has the least amount of competition when it comes to other people kind of rushing to it. So I just think that it's a huge opportunity. It's the fourth largest marketplace, as Gary just mentioned. If you can figure out the steps, it's not as complex as maybe selling in Europe. There's like huge complexities there with VAT and so on, and compliance and so on. But with Japan, it's relatively easier once you get past the initial kind of points of setting things up and so on. So I just think it's like a no-brainer. Like, why not?
Excellent. Nick, what are your thoughts?
I think Ritu has summed pretty much up everything there. I mean, why not? I mean, it's almost like saying, well, why do people sell in the UK? If you have a brand and you have products in America and you start selling in the UK, well, Amazon Japan is it's now a little bit smaller than the UK, but it's almost the same size. Japan has twice the population of the UK, so why, if you're selling in the UK, why not sell in Japan? I mean, you have less competition. If the only reason you're selling in the UK is because of the language, that's not really a reason. It's not that difficult. You will probably need some help. My second largest market after Japan is Germany. I don't speak any German. I've got a German VA. German's not a problem at all, and it's not really a problem for Japanese if you get somebody to help you do it. So yeah, Ritu summed everything up there. I mean, this is the fourth largest marketplace. There's no reason why you should be looking to the smaller marketplaces before you've done the big four, in my opinion. And one more thing, I'm just kind of add on to what Ritu was saying. If you've got the products and you've got the listings, and more importantly, if you've got the reviews, then it really is a no-brainer, because as many people know, lots of other marketplaces like Japan and Germany, the sellers do leave fewer reviews. So that's an advantage if you sell on another marketplace and you've already got dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of reviews. If you start selling in Japan, you could very likely have the most reviewed product by a multiple of 10 or even 100. So you can actually start selling. The most important thing is reviews, and you can start with the highest review count in many cases. So that really does reduce the barrier to entry.
Yeah, I think Nick brought up a very interesting point, talking about the review, kind of like the threshold in Japan. I found that it's significantly lower. I actually have an example in my slides. Like, you need way fewer reviews to compete in Japan. In this example, these are diapers or nappies, if you will. These, the same diapers, the Pampers diapers in the US, you can see there's 70,486 global ratings, versus there were only 13 reviews in Japan, right? So it just goes to show that, the review threshold in Japan is a lot lower. So like what Nick said, if you can bring your US listing into Japan with those hundreds or thousands of reviews, you'll have a head start, even with the zero sales history, right? I mean, you'll have the social proof with the number of reviews, and that has all the advantages of more conversions, lower PPC, etc. So I think that's another golden opportunity by Japan, that why you should sell in Japan. And also, to Ritu's point earlier, there's just like far less sellers competing in Japan than in UK, than in Germany, than even like the smaller markets like India, France, Spain, for example. They have more sellers. So there's significantly less competition. And then you might be thinking, like, what about the Chinese sellers, right? And then Nick and we actually had a meeting yesterday in Tokyo with someone. When we found out that there are a lot of Chinese sellers, but there's very few international sellers, right? And then at the same time, with the Chinese sellers, I mean, what's your take on that? I mean, like the landscape of the listings in Japan. I mean, do you think that, I mean, they're like the competition, do you think it's at a high level, or do you what's your take on that? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean,
Nick or Ritu. Like, actually, I'd like to hear both of your perspectives, but let's say Nick first.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting speaking to someone from Amazon yesterday and actually getting the figures of the percentages of Chinese sellers, which it kind of confirms everything that I've seen over the last few years. I don't think it's strictly true to say there's less competition on Amazon Japan, but it's definitely true to say there's less sophisticated or experienced seller competition, which is probably the most important thing. So, and I would probably add that there's way less brand competition. You won't be competing with other big brands, apart from native Japanese brands, but something slightly different, I guess. So there are lots of sellers, predominantly Chinese sellers, but as you know, in many situations, they've got lots of products, and they may well be cheaper, but they don't have the branding, and they don't have the sophistication, and they often put their listings on Amazon. They just without really any effort. So they're not translated properly. They still have lots of it's kind of my pet peeve, having imperial measurements on things. So things are in feet and inches, and it just doesn't make it. It's quite clearly not targeted properly at the Japanese audience. So there is way less sophisticated, decent competitors and brand competitors. So if you know what you're doing on Amazon and you've got a good someone to work with in Japan who understands Japanese, then also with the reviews we just mentioned, things should be a lot easier for you. You should have way better conversions, and your PPC should convert better against a sophisticated competitor. So against as opposed to being in a marketplace that does have sophisticated competitors. Sorry, because in Japan they really are not.
Yeah, excellent. And Ritu, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I go back to the days when I used to live in Japan. I was there for years, and what I noticed was that the proximity of China to Japan, and just the trade relationship between those two countries makes it inevitable for Chinese sellers to dominate the marketplace. So that's always going to be there. Like, we can't really get around that. However, the one thing that I want to say is that Japanese people also are very quality conscious. Like they really place a lot of emphasis on high quality when it comes to something that is going to last a little bit longer than a throwaway product. So there is a high acceptance of cheap Chinese goods. Like the dollar stores there are very popular, the Daisos and so on. They're very popular, and a lot of people do buy from those places. But there is a magic kind of threshold with 5,000 yen or roughly $50. Anything that's lower than that, it's okay because they can buy cheap Chinese products and be with okay with that. However, as soon as your price point kind of exceeds that, then there's a whole lot of other things that become important. Like they will definitely check out your brand store. Do you have a brand? Like how trustworthy are you? Because then they're making a slightly larger investment. And what I've noticed is that for example, let's say you're selling some sort of I don't know, leather bags or something like that. There's a high chance that Western brands are looked upon with kind of a little bit more trust than like a cheap knockoff or something that's under $50 from China. So there's going to be that mental shift in, okay, this product is, I don't know, 2 3 thousand, more than 5,000 yen, and then it starts to become important. How you present yourself, like how your listing quality is, and what kind of SEO you're doing. Are you taking care of the shopper with really putting out all the information that you need? Later on, I have some examples of good listings and bad listings. So Gary, tell me when is a good time to talk about that. I mean, we could do it now, we could do it later,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to
Yeah,
show
that
you.
I think
Yeah.
this is a great time. Let's go into that.
Okay.
I'll stop my
Yeah.
screen.
Sure. Okay. So yeah. So I think just wanted to show you one good example and one bad, and I'll tell you why they're good or bad. So let me just present, share screen. Yeah. Okay. So just want to show you this one. This is one of the examples I picked for a good listing. Now, one thing to note is that Japanese people love, like you'd be surprised how much how much I guess uh, trust is built with this kind of, or this level of very text heavy detail. Like it might seem counterintuitive. You probably want to just make it like a simple listing with not much going on, but believe it or not, if you walk into a physical store in Japan, it is loud. Like it is full of text heavy information, screaming at you from all sides, which is absolutely accepted. And I think Japanese people love the fine print. They love to read the details and charts, etc. All the details. This goes well with them. So if you have the like an authoritative listing with all this kind of detail, it's an example of how you're trying to build trust with them by giving them all the information they need. So yes, this listing can do with maybe a lifestyle photo or two, but in general, giving all the information is actually good in Japan. Now, compared to that,
And
there's
Ritu, just one second.
yeah.
So when you say information, so this is like the product specs of the product that's there, or is it more of the benefits of the product and here's how this product is good for you, etc.
Yeah, no, everything, like everything, all the details, especially the having Japanese text on your listing photos is so important. A lot of people don't make the effort to do the translation of their images and stuff. So this all these things become super important. And yes, definitely. Right now, I'm looking at it in English mode because I just picked English here, but this gets translated, and so there's a lot of detail of like what the ingredients are, etc., etc. So there's a lot of that going on here. So I
Mhm.
would say, things like infographics will do well, comparisons or measurements, details like, uh, how much of the product, numbers, etc. All these things are actually really, really good, especially when it is something that you're going to ingest, like this sort of vitamin or whatever. You probably want to give as much information as possible. So that's one. Then the other example of a bad listing that I wanted to show you is this one. Now this fails even, actually it fails on all fronts, even with the amount of information there is here. It just says what the brand name is, and then something, maybe it's just a front cover or back cover, and that's it. There's nothing more to it. Plus, it has no, not even like bullet points. Like I don't even see the bullet points. So yeah, this is an example of what not to do. And while this might seem like an example of an extreme case, it's actually the right thing to do because they do like the fine print. So yeah, I just thought I'll mention that. And just note that if you do have like a product that is over $50, you do want to take the time to create like a brand store, make sure that your listing is properly described, give as much information and care into how you describe your listing. Those things will go a long way in building trust, which is one of the most important barriers that you need to cross in Japan. Like anyone doing business in Japan will know this. They don't really trust you right away. You need to really work hard to kind of build that trust. And so these things will actually help, get you in a better starting place.
Right. So everybody watching, if you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in the comments. Our experts will also take questions.
Actually, can I
Okay,
say
Gary, so
one
I'm
one
sharing
one
your
quick?
slides. Yeah,
Sorry.
go.
Can I just
Go
add
for it.
one quick thing to that? So the last example that Ritu gave of something that is a good listing, the reason why specifically that's a good listing for Japan is that Amazon Japan is incredibly strict when it comes to things like supplements. You're not allowed to say what the benefits of the supplements are. Coming back to the question you asked a little earlier, Megha, you're not actually allowed. Amazon has a long list of words you're not allowed to use. And you can very easily get your listing taken down. So when it comes to things like supplements, the best thing you can do is show the ingredients, and the customers will know what it is they're looking for ingredient wise, because they won't find it any other way. So having the ingredients and showing really what is in the product is the best way of doing it for Japan, because you can't say it will help you with migraines or whatever. You're not allowed to say that in most cases. So that's the reason why you show ingredients.
Yeah.
So
What
about?
Go ahead, Kevin.
No, I was just going to throw in a question regarding homewares. Sort of handmade type products, or like the trends. Do the Japanese sort of follow sort of Western trends with sort of homewares type stuff?
I'd kind of go on, Ritu.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead, Nick.
I'd say kind of yes and no, but you have to be aware of if you're selling products for the house, for homes, you should go and have a Google search of what a Japanese house looks like, and that will basically give you the answer in most situations. Right. So if you sell something that's very large, that's put on a kitchen counter, that probably won't work if you look at the size of a Japanese kitchen. But there are lots of things they do like for the houses. Things that are not permanent are quite good. Things that aren't actually fixed to a wall, for example, because lots of people in Japan rent. So, and also, so the houses are smaller. So if it's things that would also go well in a house in Korea or Singapore or China, those are the kind of things. But if it's a product for a very large garden or a very large house, then it becomes much more difficult to sell, or the potential market is much smaller. So it does kind of depend on the product, but they do like Western look. And that's often used when you promote a household item in Japan. The whole Western image is a good selling point.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, just real quick. So someone is asking if the recording will be available. So Jen, yes, the recording will be available at the same link where you're watching the live right now. And we've got a question from Antonio as well. Gary, I don't know if you want to take this now. What are tax setup obligations of foreign entities selling on Amazon.jp?
So we're going to cover that in point 3. So we can just hold off on that, Antonio, for just a few minutes. We'll get into that. All right. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
So, all right. So we covered some reasons why sellers should sell in Japan. Next, let's talk about what are some of the general steps you need to take to start selling in Japan. And let's assume you're already selling in the US or EU. So what steps should we take? What do you think, Ritu or Nick? Who wants to take a shot at this first?
Do you want to go first, Richard?
Yeah, I think Nick would be better to answer that question since he's actively selling there.
Okay. Well, there are lots of steps that can be done and probably should be done, but I would say just reduce it down to one big, huge step. Well, not a huge, it's quite easy to do, but it's very important. And that's just kind of check whether your product is a fit for the market or not. As simple as that. And you can check if it's a fit a million ways. You could look on Amazon yourself for the product. You could look on Google. You could look at videos on YouTube. Just kind of get an idea of, like the example beforehand, if you sell something for the home or for the kitchen, go look at what a Japanese kitchen looks like. Look at what a Japanese home looks like. And you can probably get a good idea there. Another really useful tool is to use brand analytics, which you can, if you've got an account on any marketplace, you can check out Japan and to see what the keyword volume is like. There's lots of products that would be selling 10, 20, 30 a day in the US, and you may find that you won't get any information returned, even putting in a main keyword or the number one. For example, if you look at the products you're selling, if you can kind of work out what the best selling product is just by clicking on, the top 100 sellers, take the ASIN of the top seller, put that into brand analytics and see if it brings back any keywords that are used to search for that product. And quite often you'll get 0. So you'll probably be in a very, very or overly niche market for Japan. There's something I often say in America, sellers often tell you to niche down. In Japan, you tend to want to niche up. So you go from the sub categories to the kind of top, the higher level categories. What would be considered to be too competitive in America would probably be an easier kind of product to sell in Japan. So just kind of check if the volume is there, whether it fits the market. If you're selling a product that Japanese people just do not use, and there's lots of them that sell very well in America and they're just not used in America at all, you're going to have a hard time. And it shouldn't, all of this, it may have just sounded a little bit complicated, but it's not. In one full day of work, you can decide whether your product will sell in Japan or not.
I've got a question from Carol. Can helium-10 be used to see if there is demand for the product? Gary, do you know if tools are available, or Nick?
Yeah, helium-10 and Jungle Scout. Those are two of the external tools you can use that supports Amazon Japan. And yeah, what do you think, Nick and Ritu?
Well, Ritu has actually used helium-10 for Japan.
Ritu uses helium-10.
Yeah. I do too. So I use both brand analytics and helium-10 for Japan. Those are easy. I used to use Jungle Scout earlier, but I felt that helium-10, once they came out with their Japan support, it is probably a little bit better. So yeah, you can definitely get search volume and so on. And I like the point that Nick made earlier about product market fit. That's such an important thing, and you can actually do a little bit of that research yourself by just entering the keywords in English. You don't even have to do it in Japanese, because Amazon Japan will do the translation for you when you're doing your research. So actually, even Amazon is a pretty good place to do your research, except that you won't get actual numbers. There's one more tool. I think you might want to just check it out. It's called Seller.Tools. That also gives you some amount of search volume, although I don't know if they're absolutely accurate in terms of how many sold per month, etc. But yeah, using those couple of tools should give you a pretty good idea of whether your product will sell at all or not. And then you can maybe just look at the price point and see if it's under $50, above $50, and so on, and look for definitely look for whether it's a thing that is used in Japanese homes, for example, or do Japanese people even consider that? So yeah, product market fit is a good, important first step.
Excellent. And a quick shout out to Carol. She already got her ticket to Japan. So we will see you in Tokyo in just a few months, Carol. Thanks so much. All right. So other than that, Nick and Ritu, any other advice on general steps you need to take to start selling in Japan for sellers?
Yeah, just one more thing to add maybe is, definitely look out for localization. Like, you don't want to just translate, you want to localize it. And there's service providers, like ourselves, that can help you with that step. So definitely invest in, the listing quality, because it will be, I guess Japanese people can tell when something has been translated by like an intern or something, and when it's been actually done properly, keeping the audience in mind. So you just don't want a regular translation. You want localization, and speaking to benefits and things like that. So yeah, I just thought that's something that you definitely want to spend some time and also money on as you get into Japan.
So I've got one question from Vinita. Gary, do you want to take this? Do we need to get a trademark done in Japan?
Let's just save that as well for the next point, because we're going to talk about the laws and regulations. But that is a very good question.
And I think
we'll save
and
that
this
for the next
question
point.
as well. Next point. Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Actually, can I really quickly add something? Just on to the last one. There are lots of things you need to do to go into another marketplace. I mean, we can't sugarcoat that. There are things you need to do, but there are lots of things you do after you've already decided you can start selling, and those things you'll be able to solve those problems. It's nothing difficult. The only thing you really have to do is to find out, is it a market fit? Yes or no? And does it have, for example, if it's something you ingest or something you put on your skin, does it have ingredients that won't be permitted in Japan? And that's where you need an importer, speak to an importer and decide whether it's possible or not. If you clear those two things like Ritu mentioned, like the translation, and that's super important, but that's probably the most important thing after. But that's all something that you'll be able to do once you've made the decision, okay, we can sell, our product fits Japan. Once you've cleared that, it's all good, basically. You just have to go forward and start.
Yeah.
So do you have to create new listings on Amazon Japan, or can you?
Yes, you have to create a listing with your existing ASINs. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Okay, but then how do your reviews come through?
It's Amazon will link them up if you use the same ASIN.
We'll link them.
It links up. A little tip: it's always best to use a different SKU if you can, and not use the same SKU. That will help with any issues with images, because Amazon does now allow you to have separate images in all marketplaces, but that gets a little bit muddied sometimes if you use the same SKU. If you use the same ASIN, Amazon will match it up, and if you have a problem, there are ways to fix it. But as long as the ASIN is the same, you should get global reviews.
Okay. All right. So Gary, let's move on to the third point. Looks like most of our questions are related to that.
Yes. Okay. So now let's tackle the third big talking point. What Japan laws and regulations should sellers be aware of? And we had several questions as well. So what do you think? Should we, like Nick and Ritu, should we walk this through on a high level and then answer these questions as we go through?
Yeah. I mean, it's, yeah. I mean, when it comes to things like, I think people often jump to the regulations or tax, so essentially Japan is quite easy. You don't need to set up a company. We'll say that right out from the beginning. You don't need a company. It's the same as selling in any other Amazon marketplace. If you're an American seller and you sell in Australia, or you sell in Germany or the UK, you don't need to set up companies there. You don't need to set it up for Japan. That's totally fine. So it's not a problem when it comes to that. We shouldn't really talk about tax for now. I can tell you that the tax obligations, your tax will be a lot less for Japan than it will be certainly for Europe. I sell both in Europe and Japan, and the Japanese tax is actually a lot. I won't say it should be a lot less for almost any situation. The most important thing when it comes to regulations is, as I mentioned just beforehand, there are some products that need to be tested. And that's where a lot of brands have a problem, because they don't use an importer that understands Japan, and they send a shipment and it gets stuck. You need to work with an importer who understands the product and understands, first of all, whether it needs testing or not. So that's something you really have to speak to an importer, someone who's knowledgeable about. That's a very important thing. I used to have an import business, and I can tell you a lot of people did get their products stuck at customs because they just shipped it without checking.
And products that would need to be tested would, of course, be like products that are ingested and toys. Mm-hmm.
Yes, not toys. So the most important ones would be anything that touches liquid or food. So that includes, so that's something that wouldn't normally be tested in most other marketplaces. So, for example, water bottles or plastic containers for holding food that you put in the fridge, for example, those products have to be tested. Plates, cups, they will have to be tested. That's one thing. The other thing is, things you ingest. Have to check for ingredients. And there are some ingredients that are not allowed in Japan. There are some ingredients that are not allowed in other countries that are allowed in Japan. So that's something you have to check for. And so there are service providers that will be able to, obviously we can link, or Ritu can link you up with these people, and they will know whether the product needs to be tested or not. Those are the main ones. If it touches food or drink, or you ingest it, and certain categories like cosmetics, supplements, and medical devices. Those are the three kind of main ones that you'll have to do something, and it will cost a bit of money, but you can also consider that a barrier to entry to other companies as well.
Right. And so kids' products don't necessarily need specific testing or certifications?
No, well, it depends. Generally, no. It's actually a lot less. It's kind of, Japan's a bit weird when it comes to these kinds of things. I don't know why, but even now, Amazon Japan doesn't have a requirement to have a suffocation warning on bags, which is ridiculous. Obviously, you should have the warnings, and you probably do if you make the products, but it's not a requirement. Japan's very odd, and some things they don't require and some things they do, which can be complete opposites to other places. But there are lots of, this is why you have to speak to an importer. For example, if you have a product for children that's under 6, you have to have that stated, and there is a font size that needs to be used. You know, there are small things. It's not difficult to do, but you have to be aware of. So never just ship to Japan without checking these things would be my main piece of advice.
Great advice.
That's great advice. Yeah. Should we address Antonio's question earlier about the tax setup obligations for foreign entities selling on Japan? And I know there's maybe you can share about like the consumption tax, Nick.
Yeah, there are no real obligations for a company. You don't have to set up a company, as I mentioned beforehand. You don't have to have a Japanese bank account. You just have your money sent back to you using Amazon or any of the third-party companies that repatriate money. So that I don't really want to talk about tax obligations per se. I don't feel comfortable doing that. But there isn't essentially anything you need to. It's not like, for example, selling in Germany or Europe, and you have to apply to all the different authorities, the VAT authorities. You don't need to do that for Japan. I will say that. And if you do need to pay consumption, they call it consumption tax. It's 10% on most products. If it's a consumable, if it's food or drink, it's 8%. You do have an obligation to pay the consumption tax if your sales are over 10 million yen a year, which is about $100,000. But you only pay that. You only become once you cross that threshold, you then have to pay in the 3rd year from that time. So even if you start selling in Japan and have a great year and do 100,000 yen in sales, the only obligation you would have would be to pay that several years later. So it's a little bit different, and to be honest, it's actually a lot easier than it is in certainly Europe. I can speak to that for sure.
All right, and Gary, should we take Vinita's question? Do we need a trademark?
Yes.
Do we need to get trademarked in Japan?
No, you don't need a trademark in Japan. So you need to have. You don't need to have any. You don't need to even have brand registry. Obviously, we recommend brand registry. If you've got brand registry in any other marketplace, you can get that for Japan. You obviously want to have brand registry so you can run certain types of ad types, storefront. There's obviously lots of advantages of having brand registry. So you would probably have got brand registry, for example, if you're an American brand using your US trademark, in which case you can get brand registry in Japan without having a Japanese trademark. The only reason why you would want to have a Japanese trademark is that you could use the trademark infringement tool becomes a lot easier to use, the brand registry trademark infringement tool. So if you have a problem with another seller selling a counterfeit of your product, for example, you can have that product removed without having to do a test buy. This isn't an Amazon Japan thing. This is the same as, well, the information I'm giving you is the same as all the Amazon marketplaces. You can do a takedown without having to actually do a test purchase, but you have to have the trademark in the country that you have the infringement claim in. So, for example, if you have a problem in Japan, you can have brand registry using your American trademark, but you can't. It's harder to use the infringement tools and have a takedown, have a seller taken down or a product taken down if you don't have a Japanese trademark. So I'm actually going through the process of one of my brands getting a trademark in Japan now, because I've been using a trademark that I got in the UK for this particular brand many years ago, and I have had a problem with local sellers. So I'm actually going through the process now of getting another one in Japan specifically for takedowns. Or for
and is the process similar to getting a trademark, let's say in the US?
Yeah. It's in fact, it's so simple now. Many years ago, when I got my Japanese trademarks, it was a long and an expensive. Well, it's still a long process actually. It was quite expensive and quite difficult to do. So I did get a lot of trademarks in the UK, which was a technique everyone used a long time ago because it only took a month to do. But now there are online sites. If you Google in English trademark Japan, you'll find the top one. I think it's called Coco Box or something. It's incredibly easy. You can register for a trademark. It won't take you half an hour, 15 minutes. And it costs 50,000 yen for one, what do they call it? One category. It's 50,000, so that's about $400. You can pay a little bit more to get it expedited, get it a little faster. The normal process takes about 9 months, and if you pay a little bit extra, I think it goes down to about 6 months, but it does depend on the time of year. $400, you might as well do it. I recommend people get a trademark as soon as they find out they can sell in Japan. Just start the process then, but it's not an absolute requirement, but you might as well because it's so cheap.
Right. Gary, can we take this question? Do we have to pay import taxes if we ship from India or China to Japan?
That's a very important question. Nick or Ritu.
I
think you've got to pay taxes when you import into any country.
Are the taxes high, or the taxes?
No.
What's approximate?
That's a bit of a difficult topic. But no, the actual import tax in Japan is not high because it's the consumption tax rate, which there's two different tax brackets, but it basically adds up to about 8%.
Okay. Are they separate import duties, or is that the consumption tax?
So the import tax is made up of two different taxes, but added together, it's essentially it's the same as the consumption tax. There's a national and a regional tax in there, but they both add up to about 8%. And then there's duty. And duty for Japan's quite low. The Japanese kind of government sites have always traditionally been very bad when it comes to English, but they're getting a lot better now. And so you can go onto the official Japanese customs website. They've got an English version. You can search for your category and it will show you the percentages.
In general, what is the percentage range? Is it less than 10%? 2 to 4 or 5?
Okay. Not as low as 2, but 4 to 10 is quite common around that kind of range. I haven't seen many products above 15. I think it's things like leather. I can't remember now. I should have got that up. But duty in Japan is quite low, and consumption tax is only 8%, so import tax is quite low. But there is another issue where if the government, if you're importing it, if you're sending the goods directly to Amazon, then it's possible they may charge you the duty based on the selling price on Amazon and not the actual price of the goods that you're importing, as opposed to being on the cost. They may charge you duty based on the selling price. But that's a bit of another topic. Probably don't want to get into right now.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
We've got a couple more questions, guys. These are great questions. Keep them coming.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, liability insurance requirement for 10,000 plus. How do we obtain liability insurance for Japan?
Ooh, interesting. Are you talking about, okay, so in Japan, it's called the, what's it called? There is, yeah, if you're so the importer in Japan is liable for if there is any claims. It's not the seller or the manufacturer, it's the importer. So if you are the importer, then you are liable. Japan is not a very litigious country. I don't have liability insurance for any of my products that I sell on Amazon. I used to be in the kiteboarding business. I used to import equipment that essentially could really be dangerous. So I had the insurance at the time. I can't remember what company I used, but it probably wouldn't be difficult to get. But unless you're selling something like, for example, knives is about the only thing I can really think of. I'm sure there are other ones, or maybe supplements. I don't actually know of any sellers that use that insurance. I don't know, Ritu, do you know any more about that?
So, is it okay if I just drop a link in here? So, Amazon Japan actually has a
Yep.
pretty good comprehensive guide. It's just the selling guide, and it has links to all the questions I guess we've just heard, like taxes and importer of record, and they also have like this service provider network that they reference that there. So, Nicholas, should I send this link to
Yeah,
you?
send it
or
in the
should I-
private chat. Send it in the private chat and I'll post it.
So they don't actually have the same rule as America, whereas if you're selling $10,000 a month, you have to have insurance.
Oh, no.
I think that was mainly the question. Like,
oh, I see. No.
Does that make sense?
Have,
I think that was the question. Yeah.
No, they don't have. I mean, there's other marketplaces have a lot more requirements like that. There's lots of crazy ones in Europe as well, but there's no. They don't, as far as I'm aware, they don't have that requirement in Japan.
Yeah, so
Okay,
I
great.
posted a link to you, Megla. That's basically it's a little handbook on selling in Japan, and it's got a lot of FAQ questions, and it's from Amazon, so it's going to be pretty reliable. So you can refer to that for any follow-up questions that you might have.
Yeah, great. So guys, if you're watching on YouTube, I've just dropped the link over there in the chat, and we'll just post it in the other places as well. So Gary, a couple more questions. How many work hours typically to set aside to launch a product in Japan for budgeting and planning purposes? It's very open-ended.
I mean, would Ritu and or Nick, would you feel that this is any different than launching in the US or other markets?
No.
Similar. Yeah, it would be similar. I guess if you've already done the homework and you've got your products listed and selling in one marketplace, then this is just a matter of extending that. So it's not going to be as intensive, but yeah, you probably know from your first experience how much time to set aside.
It's a lot easier doing it in another marketplace after you've done it's like launching your second product.
Or the second baby is always better.
Yeah. That's a good analogy.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. All right. Will our supplier from China be able to help with import taxes, importer of record and such? So yeah, I mean, how does importer of record work? I mean, are there companies that you work with and they are the importer of record, or are you yourself the importer of record? How does that process work?
Ritu, do you want to take that?
Well, yeah, as far as I know, because you don't have an entity in Japan, you're not going to be the importer of record. The importer of record is, an importer that you will contact, and you can find out who these importers are on the service provider network. Like there's a whole directory of these people who know what to do, and they're approved by Amazon and so on. So once you get in touch with one of these people, then they will do the importing process, and they will be liable for any kind of custom questions and things of that nature. So you need to pay them for on the basis of how much you import. So there's going to be a percentage that they will take based on how, like what volume of goods you're having them import into the country. They will have to give their address and so on, and that's what kind of gets approved, and it's they will be the ones forwarding your imported goods to the FBA warehouses and so on. So yeah, you don't need to be the importer of record because you don't have a base in Japan. Someone else has to be that person.
Okay, got it. So Gary, there are no more questions. Do we want to move on to the
yeah, let's keep going. Actually, we're coming upon the end of the hour. How much time do we have left, Megla? And I want to be respectful of our speakers as well.
Yeah, we have scheduled an hour, but if you want to go over 5-10 minutes, that's fine.
Well, I suggest let's, we've covered a lot. We've done a lot of Q&A. We talked about the reasons why you should sell, what are the steps to take. We talked about laws, regulations, trademarks, and Ritu even shared a fantastic resource from Amazon. I think we covered a lot of value. If we can talk quickly about the event in Japan that we're hosting, where you'll be able to meet experts like Ritu and like Nick and many others. Can we spend a couple minutes on that, Megla?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump ahead with the slides, and one quick fact that many people overlook is shipping time and cost from China to Japan, and I think from India to Japan also, because it's as simple as looking at the world map, guys. I mean, if you look at where China is here and where Japan is here, if you ship by sea, it only takes 7 to 10 days. It's very quick. And if you ship by air, I mean, it's even faster. And it's not that expensive if it's small and light, versus shipping from China to the US, it could be 30 to 45 days. So you can save a lot of time and money, and also logistics cost on that. Just quick fact for you guys. And I think we talked about all of those things. So, I mean, today we covered a lot, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. And then I'm very excited to announce that we're going to have a 7-figure seller Japan Mastermind. So this is a physical in-person event in Tokyo that we're hosting April 4th and the 5th. And we're going to help sellers really learn how to sell in Amazon Japan in just 2 days. So it's going to be basically a complete turnkey solution to sell into Japan. We're going to cover everything from A to Z, from launch strategies unique to Japan, external marketing native to Japan. I think also very important is, there were a lot of questions about import of records, about compliance, about testing, about translation. All of these different partners, service providers, they will be sitting in the same room as you guys here in Tokyo. So if you have a question about importing, about your product, about testing, all you have to do is raise your hand. We're going to leave no stone unturned. So you're going to be able to get all your questions answered from all of these experts like Nick, like Ritu, and a number of others as well. So I think this will definitely help you not only have the knowledge, but also the connections, the team support that you need to sell successfully in Japan. So you'll learn all of these things, the exact requirements, A to Z, and also the common mistakes that sellers make when selling into Japan. And also on top of that, I really want to deliver a unique Japan experience. So besides the 2-day conference, April 4th and 5th, the timing works out that it's actually going to be the cherry blossom season. So we're going to have a cherry blossom evening mixer in Tokyo Park, like literally underneath the cherry blossom trees. We're going to lay down a spread with Japanese sake, beers, and sushi, and bento boxes. So it'll be a great time, not only networking, meeting other speakers, other sellers, like the sponsors, but also taking in this unique Japanese experience because many people actually travel to Japan on holiday this time of year because of the cherry blossoms, and you'll be able to take advantage of that in addition to learning about selling in Japan. And sellers like Carol, they've already signed up, and we have a special early bird discount that expires January 31st. So if you are considering, I highly recommend you guys check it out, and the link is in the chat. And we've already confirmed Nick, who's going to talk about how to make your product Japan ready. Ritu, I believe she's going to talk about how to localize your listings to sell in Japan beyond translation. And also we've confirmed other speakers such as Eli Barshab. He's an expert when it comes to importing to Japan. He's been in Japan for 17 years. So any questions you have about import of records, compliance regulations, he's the man to ask. We also have 8-figure seller Bernie Thompson, CEO of Pluggable. He's been selling in Japan for 10 years. So he's going to share the 10 secrets to success learned from 10 years selling on Amazon Japan. So that's one session that I can't wait for. And also we have additional speakers, Rob Stanley from Getita. We'd like to thank Getita as well for sponsoring. He's going to share about how to maximize profit on Amazon Japan. And also I'd like to thank sponsor Chris McCabe. He's going to share about how to protect your Japanese listings against attacks from competitors and dealing with suspensions and more. So we have even more speakers yet to come. We actually just confirmed some new exciting speakers. We haven't made the formal announcement yet, so stay tuned. This is definitely, this basically, if you want to sell in Japan, guys, this is the first ever Amazon conference that anyone's done in English in Japan. So literally, you guys will be the first movers. Sitting down with all of these experts to really fast track your business. So I'm super excited. We're also going to do the Cherry Blossom social event, as I mentioned earlier, during the Cherry Blossom season. So definitely check out our website. The link is below. Check out Megla's link. It's going to be a 2-day conference, April 4th and 5th. And if you guys have any questions, please let us know. I'm happy to run through some of these FAQs, and I'd love to get Ritu and Nick's thoughts as well.
Actually, Gary, you didn't mention that Amazon is sending someone as well.
Yes. Okay. So that's actually the big news that I wanted to share. Okay, but actually we have big news. Let's just let the cat out of the bag, because we've been talking with Amazon. Both Amazon Japan and US, and we have confirmation that Amazon will be attending the event. So they're going to send someone from Amazon to speak at the event, and they're going to help promote the event, because I know that Amazon, they really view Amazon Japan as a very important marketplace, and they're trying to get as many sellers as they can to sell in Japan. So they're supporting us as well. So I think this is going to be huge value from all sides. And if you are going to sell in Japan, why not come to this conference? You can make some connections with Amazon, right? You'll be able to meet. We have a speaker confirmed already, and they're going to have some other staff, I believe, from the Tokyo side as well. So I think this will be great for relationship building in addition to the content. So I'm super excited about the event. I'm going to stop talking now. So any question, guys? Anything else that you'd like to add?
It sounds amazing, Gary. I really like how you've got some cultural activities as well. I think it's just so important whenever you visit or try to do business with a different culture, with a different country, that you also experience the culture. So I really like that you've added that. And Cherry Blossom, it's a once in a lifetime kind of experience. So anybody who's thinking of selling in Japan, this is absolutely a no-brainer to go there. And so what are the ticket prices, like the conference ticket? How much is that?
So right now we have an early bird discount. So for the 2-day event, which includes the 2-day conference, it also includes the coffees, the lunches. The early bird price is $9.99. That's for the 2-day event, $999 US. So that's the 2-day event. And early bird will expire January 31st. So if you guys are considering, definitely check out the website.
Amazing. And of course, we know the value of attending conferences, sellers as experts, because all three of us, in fact, Gary, Ritu, Nick, and myself, the four of us, we met at Global Sources Summit, and that's how, our relationship sort of built, and we've been in touch over the years. And so you never know who you're going to bump into at a conference and how that's going to change the course of your business. Yeah, I mean, attending conferences
it's so
is
valuable. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
valuable. I've been a proponent of online, but I think offline, it's another experience, right? And sometimes you learn more stuff. I remember in Global Sources, like you learn more stuff maybe at the lunch table than the conference table, right? Like maybe during lunch, I'm asking like, hey, what do you think of that guy's talk? Is that for real or is that BS? And what's working right now? And a lot of stuff is like, the private conversations in the hallway or over some drinks in the evening. That's like when the real, the friendships, like the connections are built. So I'm really trying to, deliver this for you guys. And yes, as Vinita says, Money Man is everywhere. Gatita will be there as well. So Gatita is one of our confirmed sponsors. So we really have some exciting opportunities. Whereabouts in Tokyo is the venue? It's in Minato-ku, Tamachi. So it is very central. It's very close to central. Yeah, it's super central, just within a few minutes walk of the main metro line. And we're working with hotels. We're working to get a discounted rate. We're trying to find the best deal for you guys. If you're thinking about budgeting, I know that can be a concern as well. Typically, what do you think, Nick and Ritu? Like 150 to 200 US a night, does that sound reasonable to you guys for people to budget for Tokyo at this time?
Yeah, or even less, definitely.
Even less than that, yeah. I mean, there's so many good hotels that also have like breakfast options. I mean, I would say $120 should be more than enough. But yeah, you've got it on the higher side. You want a luxury hotel, yes, that's the amount you can pay, and it's pretty decent.
Just say a capsule hotel as well, if you want to really go for the Japanese experience.
That's the real Japan experience. Yeah,
I've done that before.
Yeah. And I mean, I know some people worry about Japan being super expensive. Actually, the Japanese yen, the currency conversion, is at a historic low. I think it's the lowest now in about 40 years. So Japan isn't as expensive as you would think, especially with inflation in the US and North America and all over the world. One of my good friends traveled. I mean, he's from LA. He went to Japan, and he thought that certain things were a bargain compared to the same prices he was paying in Southern California. So I think some people may be pleasantly surprised. Japan isn't as expensive as what you think.
Japan essentially hasn't had inflation for 30 years.
Oh. Sorry. Right, yeah. And the food is just so affordable. Like I live in Canada, and I find the food expensive here, but Japan, when I used to live there, it was like so affordable. Even the convenience stores are clean and good food for like, a couple of bucks. You can have a meal. It's pretty cool.
Sounds fantastic. Awesome. Gary, I couldn't agree more about the value of networking, as you know, with our trips.
Yes.
You never know who you're going to sit next to. You never know who you're going to have dinner with. You never know who you're going to walk into or bump into when you're walking into the fair or, all day long. It's just amazing value. It's just for the networking, I think.
Yeah, I think another unique thing about our event is there's and Chinedu as well. Chinedu has already signed up. Welcome, Chinedu. We will see you guys in Tokyo. Our speakers, it's not like the same speakers you see everywhere else, right? I mean, no disrespect to anybody, but talking about Japan, there's like a different set of experts. So we're inviting local Japanese service providers. Amazon's going to be there. We're talking to some other Japanese sellers. So I think if you guys have already been to other events, I mean, definitely expand your network, because I think it will be a different set of faces that you'll meet at our event compared to a lot of the other events.
Yeah, so I'd actually add that. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Nick, go on. You go.
I was going to say, I mean, you kind of understood from the questions from people today that the questions tend to be very, very specific. And so if you want to know about tax or import regulations or things like, or logistics, those very specific questions, the actual service providers will be there and they'll be talking. So you can go directly to and speak to the person who does this every day, who's most proficient in it. So I think that there is a lot of value in that. You don't need me to say you've got to speak to an importer, which I did do today a number of times. The importers will be there. So you just walk over and then you can get the information from the horse's mouth.
Exactly. And you'll get their business card, you'll get their cell phone number, their email address. So, I mean, the relationship is there.
Is the best. But what about if people just can't get there, Gary? Can they reach out to the experts that you've sort of brought into the room there? Is there sort of afterwards? Can people,
I mean, right now, I really want to make this the best in-person event because I've listened to a lot of feedback from you guys. So so absolutely. I mean, definitely come to the event. That is the best experience. But if you can't make it, we'll see what we can do. We may have another event going forward in the future. But yeah, I mean, if you guys can make it, definitely come. I think this is going to be super valuable to sell into Japan. And I hope that you guys will be able to join. I saw there was a question about the exact venue location. I can share that with you if you'd like.
Yeah, can you just put it in the private chat and we'll just...
I actually I can bring up our site, our website, and then it's listed on our website. So all you got to do is go to Megala's link, and then it's at TKP Tamachi Center. So it's very central. If you look at the map here of Japan, it's basically central downtown. I mean, it's very close to the train station, just a few minutes walk. It's in Minato-ku. And Minato is like, one of the, like the most happening districts. It's very close to a number of different train stations. I mean, most people get around it in Tokyo by the metro, by the subway or underground. So that's the quickest way. It's the most economical way, and it's fast. Like these trains are like super on time, super efficient. It's very Japanese, right? So I think it'll be a great location. But check out our website. It has the exact address. It has the link to Google Maps, so you can take a look at the exact location there.
And this Facebook user is actually Andy. It's Andy Aykroyd. I just somehow, for some reason, his name is not showing there. So that's
all right.
cool.
Hey, Andy.
So
hope to see you in Tokyo.
Yeah. So just to clarify, the link that you can go to is bit.ly/7FSJM. That's 7-figure seller Japan. That's the acronym.
Yes.
So it's scrolling at the bottom of your screen right now, and it's also posted in wherever you're watching.
Yes.
PDF link didn't work. Oh, okay, Jeffrey. Let me check that link because it did work for me. Let me just post it again. All right. So, Gary, anything else before we wrap up? Do you want to add anything else?
I think no. I'd just like to thank Megala, Amar, Kevin, Nick, Ritu for your time today. I think if you are considering Japan, I mean, this is a very big opportunity. It could be the biggest opportunity that people are overlooking right now. So we're going to be the first movers to do this, right? So you'll be able to sit down, meet successful sellers like Nick, experts like Ritu to really guide you, to help you, and many more as well. So definitely check out the event, and I hope to see you guys in Tokyo.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gary, Ritu, Nick, for joining us today. Great information, and guys, definitely check out the event. Hopefully we'll see you in Tokyo as well.
I hope Megala, Mark, and Karen, you guys can join us too. We do a little India reunion in Tokyo. Yeah.
You can say hello. Under the blossom trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, I'll bring my son and make it a vacation, a family vacation.
Yeah,
as well.
I mean, Japan's great for kids. I mean, they got Pokemon, they got all the video games and everything in the museum.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching, and definitely check out the Japan Mastermind, and we will see you next week with another show. So have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.